Hi there, thank you so much again for joining me on this channel. As always, I'm very grateful for all your previous views, likes, subscriptions and shares. Some of you may have been hoping to have had a Halloween video. I've already filmed one of those last year and the link to that will be at the end of this video. The theme for today comes courtesy of a comment. Could you do a video on some ancient African religions other than the Egyptian gods? Nothing else is really talked about. It's a brilliant suggestion, and so for the past few days I've been wrapped up trying to find out more about this topic.
So I've got some books.
I decided to call this video Ancient Religions Overview, and the reason for that is that during my research I realised that actually there's a whole bunch of different ideas and theories and evidence pointing towards lots of different religious beliefs. So not just in Africa, it might be in the future that we explore ancient religions in the Americas or Australasia or indeed Asia. I realised when I was putting this together I didn't really know what civilization meant in terms of going back to the ancient times. Well, effectively a civilization is when a group of people are stable and they've built city-states and large communities. And that is closely linked with agriculture. As soon as humanity was able to farm the land and to grow stable crops, it meant it could stay in one place. You'll also notice that I've got somebody writing up there, please help me. The generally agreed principle is that from about 3100 BCE, that's when humanity started to be able to write things down. And that's generally accepted at the point where ancient civilizations begin. Of course, humanity existed before that, but the point is that allowed humanity to write ideas down and stories and keep records and make it easier for us to find out what they believed and how they lived. Now, between 3100 and 539 BCE, an area known as Mesopotamia had a number of different civilizations. As you can see, it's focused around the Middle East and it touches just into North Africa as well. This area, known as the Fertile Crescent, had two rivers, the Euphrates and the Tigris, and it meant that civilizations could actually, of course, grow their crops. It wasn't always a bed of roses though, because the rivers would flood and so you had to kind of manage the water and the irrigation and so forth. But the point is it offered the communities there stability and a chance to put down roots and to build civilizations. One such civilization was the Sumer civilization from 4500 BCE to about 1900 BCE. And at that time, it was run through a series of chiefdoms. That's when you had a chief in charge. Elman Service was an American scholar who was particularly interested in studying ancient civilizations, and he noted that when you had a system based on a chief, the society had to be run not by force or by coercion, but actually by consent and people working together. It's been pointed out, and it is kind of interesting, that the way the chief ran this city was kind of similar to how the Pope runs the Vatican City. It's not an exact match, but the idea is you have a figurehead in charge of a city-state and keeps everything ticking over. So the Sumerians were guided by the chief in charge of their city, and they believed in polytheism, which is many different gods and goddesses. A particular favourite was Enlil, and here's an image of Enlil here. Enlil was the king of all the gods and had the power to create and destroy. It was also very significant that he was connected very closely with agriculture. There is actually one story of Enlil being so angry by humanity keeping him awake one night that actually he sent plagues and famine and disease to teach humanity a lesson, as a way of culling the population, if you like. My favourite goddess was Ninhursag, which means the lady of the sacred mountain, and here's a lovely frieze of her here seated down being surrounded. What's also interesting as well is you get this idea once more of nature, the lady of the sacred mountain, and it shows you how closely connected the Sumerians were with the world around them. In terms of places of worship, in the Sumerian civilization, there were temples known as ziggurats. The word literally means to protrude or to build high. They were monuments, but also they were administrative centers. And that was important as well to help keep the civilization together, particularly when it came to trade. So you get that mixture already, don't you, of religion and politics and society all coming together in one place. Our next civilization are the Minoans from 3000 to 1450 BCE. Although not in the ancient Near East, they would have traded with that part of the world. That was very important. And it's generally regarded as the first European civilization, just south of what we now know as Greece. This wonderful fresco shows the Minoans going about their day-to-day business. They had structures like buildings which had indoor plumbing. They were great seafarers, a very busy and bustling life. In terms of religious beliefs, it's kind of difficult to pin down what the Minoans believed. This magnificent artifact is known as the Minoan snake goddess. There's quite a bit going on here. So snakes are often associated with the underworld. The fact that she has a bell-shaped dress is often associated with new life. The point is we're not entirely sure, but it really is a fascinating piece. Like other ancient civilizations, the natural world was important, and that was tied in with worship. Bulls also seem to have a particular significance for the culture. You may have heard the expression of taking the bull by the horns. Well, that seemed to originate from the Midwest, the United States of America, this idea of taming a wild bull on your cattle ranch. The Minoans were doing this long before cattle ranches. There seems to have been a religious ritual or a game or maybe some sort of rite of passage whereby a bull would charge at you and you would try and take the bull literally by the horns and flip yourself over and sit on the bull itself. Something that is very striking about Minoan culture is that it was based on matrilineage, that is, descended through the female line. In other words, women were not subservient to men, and in fact, it seems to be that actually women were involved very much in terms of being priestesses and running the religion at the time. Put it bluntly, women were the stewards of the Minoan religion. Our final ancient civilization, we're back once more in North Africa, and we're looking at a region known as the Nubian Desert. We're in a region in the Nubian Desert known as the Nabta Playa, and we need to go back to 7500 BCE. People at that time were living on a land that was actually fertile, and you can see here from one of the images actually a tomb that they've constructed. They were also able to construct huge underground cellars because if you were able to grow lots of crops and grain and so forth, it meant you could store it, it meant you had food security, and you could bed down and actually make some kind of civilization. Cattle were also tended to there. Cattle remains have been found, possibly used in some kind of sacrifice. And what's really interesting as well is that did those inhabitants of the Nubian Desert influence the ancient Egyptians? It's possible that they also gave adoration to Hathor, who is an Egyptian goddess, often represented by a cow. Really fascinating to think that this culture may have influenced the ancient Egyptians who took Hathor for their own. However, what is really fascinating are these stone circles, and it's a belief that actually the people on Nabta Playa were involved in astronomy. We're looking at around 1,000 years before Stonehenge in England was constructed. This example of an Archeoastronomical Device is believed to have been associated with the summer solstice and the onset of heavy rain, and also a way of perhaps navigating through the desert at night. We are talking about something here which is 6,500 years old, and it's been studied by numerous individuals. One of my favourites was a guy called Thomas Brophy, and he was looking at the stones in the middle and suggested that the 3 stars of Orion's belt and also his head and shoulders are represented by the 6 stones in the centre. Thank you so much for watching. I do hope that it has been of some use and interest. And we've got an extract here on the screen from an ancient text known as Gilgamesh, okay, often regarded as one of the first superheroes. And if you want to have a little look into that, I do encourage you to dive deeper online or indeed at your local library. I'm also really pleased and humbled to say that we've broken the 600 subscriber barrier. Thank you so much for your support. The channel does not happen without you, of course. As always, if you are able to like, comment and subscribe, then do so. And please do also as well keep those comments coming, and it helps to shape the future of the channel. Until then, enjoy your learning.